Okay, we're going to go ahead and you guys go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Seriah. I host Where Did the Road Go here in Ithaca on WGBR. It's on Saturdays at 11 p.m. It deals with the paranormal as well as alternative history, alternative science, and just general mysteries. And some of these people will be there tonight if you want to tune in at 11.
I'm Luke St. Clair. I'm an Ithaca college student. I shadowed Peter and his group for 6 months for my diplomat study, and then ended up presenting on the paranormal subcultures of upstate New York at a conference.
My name's Peter. I'm with the Ghost Hunters of the Finger Lakes. We've done a lot of do a lot of houses around here in this area. We keep pretty busy, so we get a lot of calls. But yeah, it's based on the scientific. We try to gather evidence, EVPs. But Lorna helps out quite a bit when we need help in either clearing the house or some attachment cases, like serious cases that we need help in. So Lorna works with me quite a bit.
I'm Katie Christopher. I'm with the TV show Ghost Detectives and also the residential team, NEPA Paranormal. And I also wrote the book that I have over there, Paranormal Oddities and Government Conspiracies.
I'm Steve Alaverz. I'm from Connecticut. I work a lot with New England Paranormal Research Society, John Zaffis' group. I work a lot with Debbie and Larry Elward, which is their psychic medium and also their exorcist. Normally I'm a private paranormal investigator, but I have a specialty in demonology.
Excellent. All right. Thank you guys. We're going to go ahead and get started. Peter, do you want to go ahead and show some of our local footage that we've...
Yeah, get that. See if I can get that up. You want to start off with that hypnosis?
Sure. And actually the reason why the hypnosis, and I'll go ahead and explain before we even get into this, we went on, Peter called me in, and this is actually, remember when I was talking about the goat legs? Okay. I was sitting there talking to the girl, and it's like, as I was talking to her, her eyes turned solid black. And I went, oh no, I've got to go to work. And it's actually, I'm very laid back, so it is kind of comical on the way that I handle it, but, you know, I don't get like bent out of shape, so go ahead and play that footage, Peter.
Could you go ahead and state your name for it? And how old are you? 26. 26. I'm going to go ahead and ask you, is there anybody else with you? I want to go ahead and I want to call out. You don't know? Let me go ahead and call out. I want you to go ahead and just leave your stuff right behind. And I want to call out the other person, the other spirit that's with you. I want to go ahead and call you out. Can you tell me what your name is? I'm going to go ahead and call you out. Call you out. Can you go ahead and tell me what your name is? Can you tell me why you're here? Staying under a hypnotic state. I want you to go ahead. I want you to go ahead and open up your eyes. Go ahead and I want you to go ahead and open up your eyes. Staying underneath the hypnotic state. I want your eyes open. Very, very good. I want you to focus. I want you to focus on the sound of my voice. Go ahead and close those eyes back down and just relax. Can you tell me? Can you tell me who you are? Tell me who you are. Do you know why you're here? Do you like it here? Yes. Can you tell me who your name is? Stop and think about what your name is. I demand to know what is your name.
Yeah, go ahead. So Peter, do you want to go ahead and explain?
Well, Lorna didn't know anybody, she didn't know this girl's name or anything, because I leave Lorna out in the boat, I don't let her know anything. Her name's not Nicole. So when she said her name was Nicole, that's not her. So Lorna actually bends down and asks me, is her name Nicole? And I'm like, no. So it was a different person we were talking to. It wasn't the girl's name. So it was pretty interesting. So.
Let's get up the left one again. I gotta go back to where it was.
Just feel your energy levels just raise. Interfere with her life. You need to tell me. You need to tell me now. Yes, you do now. I command you to answer me now. Why are you here? Why are you here with her? Answer me now. That's not a reason. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to command you to go ahead and leave her body. You have no permission to stay here. You do not have permission to stay here. You are to leave, and you are to leave now. You are never, ever, ever to be able to interfere with her life. This is her life, not yours. And I'm telling you right now, you are to leave. You are to leave now. You have no permission to stay here. None. No permission, no permission. In the name of Jesus Christ. In the name of Jesus Christ, please protect this child. Push this other entity, pushing it away. This is not its place. This is not its temple. This is her body, her spirit, her domain. It is not for another one to interfere with. Pushing this entity, pushing it away, keeping it away from her. I want to see you focus. I want you to focus, baby. I want you to focus on the white light. I want you to focus on the white light. All the way down at your feet. All the way down at your feet. And on the count of 3, we're going to bring this up, and we're going to bring this up and around you. 1, 2, 3. I want you to feel that white light. I want you to feel it just coming up, coming out.
Okay. Well, let me go ahead and explain. Her house was in a total disarray. This is a lot what we find, especially when there's entities that are kind of like making a home where they shouldn't. So it was kind of sharing a dual life with her. And her life after this hypnosis. And after it did, she totally looks like a different person.
Yeah. Her back pain was gone too.
Her whole life has changed completely. And I had to laugh because we got a phone call to go to her house. What was it, just last month?
Yeah, not long ago.
And I could not believe it. I walked in, the house was all clean. It was like, she looked absolutely fantastic, happy, healthy, and she's doing absolutely great. Yes.
Did you just clear the house, or did you actually do exorcism on her? That's kind of...
I took, because of the fact that she was sharing herself, and it was really strange because she, when we first came, she said that her husband was possessed.
Yep. I actually had to hold her husband down. He was chasing girls around, like trying to sexually attack them, and she actually kicked him in the groin, and he didn't even flinch.
This is when he was under hypnosis?
No, this is during one night.
This is just him, like, conscious? Like,
Conscious,
okay.
yeah. They actually had to hold him down. They took like 5 people.
Wow.
And they physically, the one girl kicked him like straight in the groin. He didn't even flinch. He's like, I should have took the guy
It
down.
wasn't him,
Yeah, so it wasn't him. They've been playing around with a Ouija board. That's what it started. Yeah, so we took the Ouija board out of the house. She cleared the Ouija board. We have video of that too, but it's a long story. But the toys were going off. She goes, this toy goes off. So we set the toy up and put on the camera all night. From 3 o'clock in the morning, the toys started going off. So everything she told us, it was crazy.
Do
Everything
you
was happening.
take those items and kind of like, do you have like a secure place for those kind of things, or do you clear them and leave them in the home? Is that?
Well,
I can clear them in the home.
She cleared
So,
them, yeah.
and I actually, a lot of people don't want anything to do with the boards after they've had a bad experience. So I generally, I kind of collect them.
The Ouija board.
They don't bother me, so.
You showed me the Ouija board too, and it was true. We took it outside. It was like 80 degrees. It was a warm summer night.
Yeah.
And she goes, here, feel it. And I put my hand over the Ouija board. You could feel cold air coming out of it.
Just like an air conditioner.
It was really cold. I couldn't believe it. We had that on video too. And then after she cleared it and everything, it was normal.
Can we go over to where, when I cleared it and the smoke went out of the house, the smoke actually rolled up into a ball.
Right.
And I said, be gone with you, and it rolled up into a ball, and the wind was blowing in, and the ball went right on out of the house.
Right?
There's the Ouija board.
There's something else up here beside the board.
He knows.
It's going outside.
We gotta go back because,
Yeah, this is where we actually felt. She had this hidden upstairs in the morning. You opened it.
Or it's open.
Is it open?
Yeah.
You got a feeling it was. That's not good.
It's okay, I can close it. Come here, Peter. You want to feel it?
I guess, I'll try.
You'll feel air coming up out of it.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Hang on, I'm going to close it.
Oh, I can feel cold air.
Yeah. Don't you stick your hand in there. God damn it. I just got through cleaning your fucking house.
What was that audio right there?
sorry, everyone, it's all adults.
What was that audio right there, though?
Huh?
That maybe it's just me going off, but right when you put your hand near it, there's an
There's a little sound.
EVP
Uh-huh.
that's right there.
There was a lot of, actually, when she got done clearing the girl, the back door swung wide open. It scared the crap out of me because it was right where I was
You'll
standing.
hear Peter going, I'm surrounded by white light, I'm surrounded by white
You could hear
light.
knocking on the doors. The house was crazy.
So what makes someone susceptible to being possessed by like a demon or an evil spirit of some sort like that?
Belief.
Very open
Believe.
too. She was part Native American. She used to be reported Native American. Very open. She had a lot of energy. When she walked by me, my EMF meters are going off like crazy. I'm like,
So skeptics don't get possessed?
Not
They
true.
they can have things interfere with their life, but they don't realize what's interfering with their life, so therefore it doesn't matter to them.
they kind of write it off. I think.
So they kind of write it off.
There's like a state
Or
of
somebody that's
oppression.
open. Okay, this is good for the paranormal,
That's a
the
good
round
question.
table. Go ahead.
Possession doesn't just happen. It's not like you go to bed one night and you wake up and you're possessed. There's a state of oppression where this entity is going to pick at you and eat at you and try to get you to believe and try to get you to open yourself up. So that's where the belief part of it comes in. When you have that belief in it and you open yourself up to it, then you're inviting it in. But if you're closed off and you're not allowing it to come in, it's not going to break through your wall. It's that whatever basically what happens during that state of oppression and how you handle it, that's going to determine what comes next.
That's where the Ouija boards are. You're kind of inviting it in when you're playing the Ouija board, asking questions, because that night, that's when the boyfriend went crazy. They were playing around with the Ouija board, and they actually held him down. So,
Steve.
Just to add on to that, in my experiences, when it comes to dealing with a demonic or a malevolent entity, there's two stages. You have the law of invitation and the law of attraction. The law of invitation would be something like this: playing with a Ouija board, opening yourself up some way or another, trying to communicate with something that you don't know what's really there. And then you have the law of a law of attraction is when, like, you live a life of, sex, guns, rock and roll, stuff like that, where it's attracted to stuff like that. And then eventually, like she said, there is an oppressive nature. It might not come and manifest itself as, hey, I'm a demon or I'm a malevolent spirit, I'm here to go ahead and take over you. It might be a thing of, these things have elaborate plans sometimes where you can go bankrupt. You can go, and have a house fire. You can lose everything. What it does is that it wants it, the perfect time for it to take you is when you're in complete and total despair.
When you're vulnerable.
When you're absolutely vulnerable, when you've given up and you just said, this can't get any harder. That, like, I am at my wit's end.
Bob had an experience like that.
Yeah.
We were, he was doing a ghost box session at a museum, and they asked who was there, and it said, it's your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And his father passed away. So immediately he became emotional, and he had another investigator with him who specializes in demonology too, and he said, just keep your cool, don't get emotional, let's ask some more questions. And the next question was, okay, if you're my father, what was your wife's name? Like 6 different names came across, none of them were my grandmother's name. And the guy looked at my dad, he said, that's not your father.
Exactly.
Don't open yourself up. It's coming to you as something that's going to break you down and make you vulnerable and emotional, but it's not.
It tries to go ahead and get you to open that door. That's why a lot of times you'll hear stories about people who've been visited by the demonic or by a malevolent spirit that take the form of children, because most of the time, as our normal human intuition is, hey, we want to care for children. Well, a lot of times that, the Annabelle dolls, stuff like that, because we open ourselves up to stuff like that, At the end of the day, it's just, you got to be very careful when you play around in the realms, because you can knock on the door, but you don't know necessarily what's knocking back.
In that case too, with the Ouija board, her best friend Nicole came through that passed away, and she thought she was and she said her name was Nicole.
Right.
Her friend, well, I think it was disguising itself as
Yeah,
Nicole.
her friend.
Yeah, I don't think it was actually Nicole. And she's all, we were just talking to Nicole. I go, how do you know that?
Yeah,
I said, it was probably disguising itself.
And for somebody's eyes to turn solid black, which I don't see that very, very often, because I was like going, oh crap, Peter, I gotta go to work, So it was like, because I don't generally get that abrupt, even cleaning a house, unless it's something like really, really bad.
If you notice, like, even in that video, the eyes were like dilating open and shut.
Yeah.
They say the eyes are the window to the soul. That's one of the ways, they can be able to, there's different chakra points that Lorna could be able to confirm that a demon or malevolent spirit could be able to enter a person's body in and out, depending on how open you are, depending on, if you're not grounded in something, then you leave yourself open for a lot.
And that was a good point. Her life was disarray. She was out of work. She had messed up back. Her house was trashed.
I mean, we had
cats
that did you guys hear the chickens?
Yeah.
There was actually chickens brooding in the living room.
40 chickens in her living room.
40 chickens in the living room. And there was paths. We actually had to walk like paths.
But why?
Because, honey, the house was in disarray because of the possessions that were going on and stuff, yeah. I mean, just before we got there, she said that the spirit had pushed her off the porch, and that's where that cut came from.
Broken nose.
Okay, the spirit didn't push her off the porch, okay, and I already know this.
Cleanliness is next to godliness, so and that, when you think about stuff like that, hoarding and stuff like that, more disarray something is in, that's what the demonic or the malevolent wants, because it doesn't want people, it wants people to focus their attention on everything else, on, hey, okay, that's a mess over there, this person's disgusting. They don't want people to focus their attention on, there's a spirit here that we need to get rid of. Because once you focus in on that, then you can start channeling your power to that. That's why, like when Lorna said, when you command it to go out, or you command its name, its name wasn't Nicole.
No.
Its name was probably definitely deeper and uglier than that.
Right.
But that's why it kept saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's playing roundabout tricks. It's playing,
I guess I've A couple of questions. One is, have you ever seen anything good ever come out of people using the Ouija board, or is it always sort of a recipe for disaster?
I think it's because of what goes behind the thought process of using the Ouija board. Because the Ouija boards don't bother me. It's no different than using my dowsing rods. It's no different than using any equipment that we use as paranormal investigators. It's the thought process that goes behind it.
It's how shielded and grounded you are too. If you're open and you know you're a seasoned investigator, you know what you're looking for. Like I use dowsing rods all the time, but I try to keep myself
So you would
grounded.
recommend that somebody, like, I don't know,
No.
got some
I don't think
experience
Parker.
from an
I don't think Parker Brothers should have ever put the Ouija board out there as a children's toy. And I actually got my first one at 8 years old for a Christmas present.
You can get a blank marker board and write your own symbols on it, and it'll work just as good. It's not really the Ouija board. It's using your energy, really.
Right.
I have video in Rolling Hills Asylum of investigators, and you see orbs leaving an investigator going into another investigator. We give off as much energy as we receive. Human bodies are like an antenna. You know what I mean? So the thing is like when you use a K2 meter, when you turn it off, you know that you've closed that part of communication. You know consciously that you've closed that part of communication. Many people don't know how to close a Ouija board or a spirit board or table tipping. Am I right, Warren?
Yeah,
table tipping.
Oh, it's cool.
It's an
I
old
do
part.
it.
It's a
Luke, how about your thoughts on this?
On Ouija boards?
Well, on the whole thing, the clip that you guys just got through watching, and
I mean, I can go back and say that it's true. When I like interviewed people who had paranormal occurrences over the last months, a lot of the time, right before they started to notice that there was something paranormal in their home, I mean, there was a human event, an intense emotional event. So it's true. I mean, you have to believe for it to happen. But I mean, whether it's the death of a family member, a car accident where someone died, kids being bullied in school and being traumatized from it, it all ends up coming back and then making them vulnerable to some kind of outside influence. In terms of Ouija boards, I mean.
Sarah, your thoughts?
Seriah.
Seriah. I always do that. I'm sorry.
Well, I think the board, as you said, the board is just a board.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It has nothing to do with, it's not in itself evil or good or anything else. It's something that opens you up potentially to another state of consciousness, especially if you believe in it. And I don't think that entities are the only things that you can deal with. You can also manifest another side of yourself that you're not dealing with that can then represent an entity. And whereas it's not actually separate from yourself, you wouldn't know the difference because it's appearing that way to you, because it's a part of yourself you're not dealing with. And something like a Ouija board might open that up as well, not only to external but internal entities.
Excellent. Peter, you want to run some more footage?
Sure.
Lorna,
Yes.
what you did, would you consider that an exorcism?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
I say it was.
Yeah.
There's also minor and major exorcisms as well. So what I would say Lorna did was definitely a minor exorcism.
Okay, and where does holy water come in too?
Well, actually, I actually have a spray that we use, and it's not just holy water. I also add flat cedar to it. If you look at all the old cemeteries and stuff, and you see, what do you see? Flat cedar trees, you know? And the old timers knew exactly what they were doing. Indian lore, so on and so forth, talks about flat cedar, and they actually use it for major major And when the old cemeteries went into play, family members protected their family members by putting in flat cedar. So I actually mix flat cedar and holy water together.
So Lorna?
Yes.
If you were to do an exorcism on someone who didn't believe in anything religious, would it work?
Yes.
Why?
Because if it's to that point where I would actually have to do one, okay, and it wouldn't have anything to do with religion, it would actually have to do with pulling that entity from them. whether or not it has nothing to do with religion. The only reason why I used religion was because of the fact that Peter actually brought the prayer cards for the girl for the refrigerator.
Some people ask.
And, so I actually have to look at people's different faiths, different religions, different beliefs, and I have to have respect for them. Okay? So I have to kind of roll with whatever's going to work for them. So it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I have to go with whatever. We had one couple that was from India, and I had to laugh because at the end of it, and it was totally, I mean, they're definitely go by the Quran. And we got out of the car, and he's coming out, and he's going, God bless you, God bless you. And I said, why are you saying God bless you to me? Because it's okay, I already seen your Quran. You don't have to tell me God bless you. And what I did, I want to work. So you have to have faith in this and not faith in something that you really don't believe in.
I was curious. I asked him, how do you guys, the Quran, Bible, and all that? He goes, well, it's not paranormal activity. You're cursed.
You're
so
cursed.
if you have activity, you're cursed. That's how we see it. We don't see it as activity. So I was curious to see how the religions...
Oh yeah, and he definitely was cursed. It was great. And he actually, this was totally beyond his belief. He actually let me put him under hypnosis.
Which is pretty
Which
huge.
was
Yeah.
very, very, very...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both
He
of them.
actually allowed me, both him and his wife allowed me to do, because they had so much stress and so much tension, and
They were
they
at
just
each
needed
other.
it gone.
They're in divorce. They were
They were-
almost in divorce. It was so bad.
If anybody knows, like in Islam, anything outside of Islam when it comes to, helping the marriage and stuff like that is usually very frowned upon. So in order for them to want to go under hypnosis in order to better their marriage, that means they must have been under an unbelievable amount of stress.
Oh yeah.
I saw the email. He's like, you got to help me. I mean, it was crazy.
But he was telling Peter that it was a haunting, even though he already knew it wasn't a haunting. Okay. And I actually told Peter what it was before we ever even got over there without Peter telling me anything about what was going on. I said, we're fixing to walk into the biggest marital dispute.
It was.
And Peter went.
She was crying on me. The guy was yelling. I'm like, oh my God, what did we get ourselves into? It was bad.
But before we ever left for it, I said, we're fixing to walk into the biggest marital dispute.
But then to add on to that, that's a law of attraction. What's one of the sacraments is marriage. I mean, you're supposed to be as one. If you're not one, there's something that likes to go in there and separate you guys more.
And the activity was crazy. The TV was turned off and there was crazy stuff going on. It was active. So. I was going to play the toy. This is where the toy was going on. And I set the camera. Didn't do anything all night. And then 3 o'clock in the morning, exactly 3 o'clock. I'll see if I can get this to work.
The witching hour.
Well, Lorna was there.
So we would try to get evidence too, to back up. I actually ripped my camera off. I had a camera off. I threw it on the floor 3 times. Yeah, you can hear us talking like it's going on. And nobody's touching it. You have to squeeze it to make it go off.
Okay, now, before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and bring Bob up. Okay, Bob, I want you to get your Rufus over there. Is it Rufus? Okay. Now, because I want everybody to understand, because you guys don't go on, a lot of you don't go on paranormal investigations or anything, and we actually use trigger items. Okay, now that toy was not a trigger item, that was just a toy.
That was a toy set
That was
there,
just a toy in the child's bedroom.
Yeah.
What's the trigger item?
Bob's one.
A trigger
Bob's
item would be
got
a
a trigger
toy,
item.
like he has a toy dog right there.
Yeah.
So if a spirit touches it, it will actually go off.
No, you're fine. You can hit it.
So
So it's a whole energy thing.
picks up the
energy.
around it.
What kind of energy does it pick up?
Any energy.
It throws an EM field.
Static, like
If anything breaks the field, any kind of energy that breaks the field, it'll make the lights go off.
That thing's hilarious.
I use dolls, like if I think there's a kid in the house, balls, and I hook up, I have one of his devices.
Kind of like a proximity alarm.
Yeah.
And now Bob actually invents, should I say most of your things or all of them? All of them.
I have a
All of the
metal,
things that they use, he's actually invented, so.
I still stick with my dowsing rods though, so
I
I'm not
like my dowsing rods too.
So does this work like the frog that croaks when you walk in somebody's house?
No, that's a motion
No, it's like a
detector.
motion detector.
This is static
proximity.
energy.
If anything comes within the area,
In the
it'll
area?
set it off. Yeah.
Paranormal investigators have used motion sensors as well too.
We've actually seen our motion lights going down the hallway setting off, and we have video of it. You can tell something's walking down. There's nothing there, but you can see them setting off. We like motion detectors.
We met a guy out in Groton, Dale Lane, who does a lot of paranormal stuff, I guess. He does a lot with sound. He's like a big sound guy in a band and stuff, so he does, I don't know, what is that, like EVPs?
Electronic voice phenomenon.
Yep. We got a lot of EVPs.
You guys do a
You
lot of
can't
that, too.
hear it when you play it back. People would be swearing at you.
Yeah.
We've got little babies crying, just crazy stuff. We had a dog barking. It's nuts. It was an empty house. We found a dog's carcass upstairs afterwards, a dead, been there a while.
Yeah.
We thought it may be connected with the dog barking. It was really weird.
Wow.
So, yeah.
When it comes to EVP and stuff, remember our ears can only pick up certain frequencies.
Oh, yeah.
So when you put on recording instruments and stuff like that, it picks up all frequencies and compresses it all to one wavelength. So that there could be something that's outside of your range of hearing.
Right.
And I've caught in Rolling Hills Asylum a recording of somebody saying in the background, "I can't believe you told me to do this. Tell my wife I love her." And I was having a full-blown conversation with somebody else. And you could just hear it in the background.
I actually got a 45-minute EVP of a guy beating a woman. You can hear her crying, and at the end you hear a huge crash. And then a medium came in, so you realize a girl got killed in here. The guy beat her and he threw her down the staircase. And it's right where we were standing, it was at the top of the staircase. So I thought it was pretty interesting that she picked
Now
that
you
up.
have that fight on there where they were fighting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's a good clip to play. You got that?
Yeah. It's a man and a woman talking, and there was nobody in there. It's crazy.
You guys are gonna, you're gonna have to listen closely, you'll have to turn it up.
I gotta find it.
Let's see. I'll pull it down a little bit.
I'll play this one real quick. This is the dog. So we played it. Right, it was crazy. We're like, what the? And we did find a dead dog carcass upstairs, so we figured the dog got trapped in that empty abandoned house and couldn't get out. We're like, what the heck? There was no dog in there. So that was pretty crazy.
So you couldn't actually hear that like in real time. It was only when you played that back.
We didn't hear that until we played it back.
That
Yeah,
sound.
exactly.
It almost sounds like a, I don't know, like a cartoon.
Yeah, that's what we thought. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't. It was really weird. I gotta find my. Oh boy. Let me go back. Actually,
Are people wide open as far as any place that go anywhere in the house or do anything you want, or
what do you mean for EVPs?
anything when you're going to do a house? It's understood that you have full access to everywhere, and
Usually, some people I ask them if they don't want us to go in a bedroom or a bathroom or somewhere, we stay out of it. But I usually let my dowsing rods take me to where the location where the most energy is, and that's usually where I get the EVPs or activity. So that's why we set up the way we do. I use my dowsing rods. Or if we feel something, our own body energy, our hair will stand up, or we get cold spots. Like we're setting up right here, I can feel it.
Do you have any idea of the range that the EVPs pick up? Like, is there...
That's a good question, because I've had my brother hold an digital recorder, and he'll get nothing, and then I'll get something.
Right next to each other?
Yeah, so it's really strange. He's standing off. He goes, well, I didn't get anything.
So it's like you're channeling.
Yeah, it was almost like I was meant to hear it, or I don't know. It's a good question, because we've got nothing on one digital recorder and something on mine, so.
I've also had EVP recordings disappear.
Yeah, I've had that happen.
I've had EVP recordings where I've I'll take the Luke. I'm like, Luke, listen to this. Luke will hear it. We'll be like, oh, all right, let's package it up, put it in the computer. As soon as it loads in the computer, gone. And then you play it back on the recorder, gone. And also, I've had EVP recordings where if you play it back on the speaker, it actually provokes more activity. So that's actually really cool if you're running real time.
Mm-hmm. That's what I love about real time, because when you get a response, you can continue on that path and on that subject. It makes you so much more open to getting more responses versus, listening to a recorder after the investigation and realizing, the first question I asked, I got an answer to, and then I spent the whole night asking questions that they didn't care about,
Exactly. Real time is actually when you're running your tape recorder, and you actually have headphones in, where you can be able to hear the reaction off of the EVP. So you're actually you're taking that full spectrum that I spoke about before, and you're actually listening to it. Now, and that's called real time. And a lot of times you can be able to pick up stuff. And then if you do pick up stuff, you can stop it. And what I can do is I can say, hey Luke, grab the tape recorder, play it. He can play it, and I can be over here with Luke's tape recorder, running real time again, picking that up, and see if something is responding to that recorder.
And we have played back and gotten questions answered.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll ask who's there, and we'll get like a Sarah, and they're like, oh, my sister died, she's just Sarah or something. Yeah, we connected to the owner. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
It's saucy, makes it all fun.
You guys want to hear the argument?
Yeah.
You got to remember, this is not us. There's a guy talking, there's a woman, and you can actually hear the hitting noise. You have to really listen. Right?
First off, okay, because is this continuing? Is this something that's continuing? Because it's like, sometimes what happens when we get EVPs like this, sometimes dramatic events will make an imprint in time. So then it will just continue and continue and continue. Is she going through this? Now I believe that it's an actual imprint, because it never acknowledged anyone that was there.
Right, it just played the event.
Over and over again.
She obviously died
like
there
there's
then,
some
right? So how is he involved in that event then? So it's not actually like there's spirits there that are going through this event over and over.
It'll probably happen even if they weren't.
Right.
It's just leftover energy.
Yeah, and that house was crazy. The doors was slammed. I mean, it was crazy
So
activity.
can you get rid of that energy?
If someone was to move in there and it needed to be cleaned up, yeah.
Saging and clearing it out, it
Yeah.
still removes that residual energy. Because sometimes you go in a house, you feel it's not quite right. Sometimes it's just residual. It's not energy there now, but it's left over.
Right.
Imprints in the house and the wood. So and that's where Lorna will come in and clean up a house. Yeah, you can get rid of that.
Do you burn sage? Is that,
I burn sage, and I'm going to be totally honest about this. Do I need to burn sage? No, I don't. I burn sage because everybody has been programmed to think, oh, a house is cleansed with sage and sweetgrass. So this is why I burn sage. So do we need sage? No, I actually use my own energy to clean it.
For a normal person, say if you had some bad energies in your house or some place in your house and you wanted to try to cleanse that, would you recommend like the average person burning sage?
Oh yeah, definitely, because if it makes you feel better,
yeah, then
that's all.
That's
That's
right?
the job is then done. Okay. If it makes you feel better and you feel that it's going to work for you, then it's done.
Right.
Okay. That's the whole
It's
thing.
almost
Is
like a
belief.
placebo
The
kind of
key
thing.
word, belief. So if you believe that that's going to work because everybody else uses it,
Right.
And I've even had people sit down and have a conversation. If you've seen a little girl, say, you know what, you don't belong here, move on. Especially people that are gifted. They actually draw in entities, like the little girl out in Portland. She's only 11 years old, and she's seen an old man sitting in the car next to her, and they're emailing me, or texting me on the phone, like, the old man's here again, or a little boy followed her home, and he would follow her to school, and she'd see the doors open and close. It was crazy. And I had to get Lorna involved in that one too, because, and she thought it was
She was afraid.
No, she thought it was a playmate. She thought it was great.
oh yeah, and her mom actually had a very high up job.
Yeah.
And her mom was like, oh my God, is my kid crazy? And no, she wasn't crazy. She actually did have a little boy. And he actually followed her home from the hospital, where she was at the hospital one night.
You've seen the head trauma.
Yeah, that he actually died from a head trauma. So with a head trauma, this is like really interesting. Does things like amnesia carry over to the other side? Yes, it does.
Yeah.
She thought it was great until she couldn't sleep at night, and the little boy would keep her up all night. And then she's like, oh, I don't want to hear anymore.
But it wasn't malicious and hurting her.
No,
It was
I
just
don't-
kind of being in
No.
the way.
I don't think it was malicious.
No, it wasn't malicious at all.
So if an elderly person, say, died of Alzheimer's, that would carry on, maybe?
Sometimes, yes. Unless something is like triggered when they get to the other side as far as family members. Because family members do greet them. I'll tell people, okay, so-and-so's together, so-and-so's together, so-and-so's together, So,
When my dad was
They
in
do.
hospice and dying, and he was talking to people, I said, Bud, what are you doing here? And I go to my mom, who's Bud? Who is this guy? He's having a whole conversation. And my mom's like, oh, that was a war buddy that passed away in the war. That was like a good friend. He got killed in the war. But he's having a full conversation with Bud. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. And
Maybe
you look
you're
up-
reincarnated, buddy.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, but he was talking to people like, he goes, my sister, you're stubborn just like your grandma over there. And of course my grandma passed away.
So we're
like, wow, these people, he was all these people in the room, and he's seeing all the past dead relatives. I'm like, that was crazy.
I've heard of that too. I have a cousin.
It's crazy.
Her aunt was very, very close to death. And, they were kind of saying to her, it's okay.
Out for a minute, so, okay.
What do you want me to go on?
Just whatever you guys want to do. Just keep the round table going. I gotta step out for a minute.
So they were kind of saying to her, it's all right, you can let go, it's okay to leave, you don't have to stay because of us. And she just kept saying, I can't yet, it's not my turn, I can't. And they're saying, I don't understand what you mean, it's okay to go. She said, the line is so big, there's just too many people, it's not my turn, I have to wait. And they were all, kind of out of it because, she was ready to pass away. Come to find out it was the day of Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really wow.
There are also a number of cases where dying people have seen dead relatives or whatever that they didn't know were dead. In which case they're saying, I see so-and-so, and as far as everyone knows, so-and-so is alive, and then they find out later that that person had actually died the night before.
I was wondering, so we talked about the past life regression stuff. So if we're being based on that perspective, then when we die, it's almost as if we're reincarnated into another entity or another human or whatever, and we continue on. So I guess, how does someone who is passing away get to meet these other people in another realm if they have passed away, years before and have now entered another,
Remember, it's all theory. Like I said before when I was up there, it could be something where for that time that you're under hypnosis and you're sent back in time, you could be the one test driving in that body.
Right. So it's almost like the soul walking.
Exactly.
Kind of
Just like the soul walking
you're
or what have
tapping
you.
into that.
Exactly. A lot of times, tagging on to what he said, dead relatives come a lot of times to help soothe your fear.
Right.
So
maybe when they're reincarnated, if they did go on to another, that still stays somewhere, and you can.
There's an imprint somewhere. It's the same way, like if there's a we use it in the paranormal. There's a heat sensor pad. You put your hand on it, and you take it off. It's going to have an imprint on your hand. It's the same way the Earth is. Your imprint somewhere. Gettysburg. Gettysburg is the #1 haunted spot in America.
Love Gettysburg.
But it's 90% of it is residual haunting. It's going to happen whether you're there or not. That you're going to hear the cannons are going to go off whether you're there or not. When you start getting into intelligent haunting, that's when it starts. That's when you guys start thinking, well, is this really so and so, or is this a poltergeist, or is this malevolent, demonic? Because you got to strip away so much clay in order to get the actual sculpture. You can't just jump from A to Z and have an answer. You know what I mean? Or is the person just, in all honesty, watch my language, but batshit crazy?
Seen that too. Definitely seen that too. I mean, down to. Oh, God. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And there are also two other things to keep in mind. We experience time here because of our senses and our way of existing here, but once you're out of this experience, time doesn't necessarily work the same way. So reincarnation and whether or not some dead spirit is coming to you may be happening simultaneously.
Right.
The other thing is a lot of ancient cultures believe there's different parts to you, and that part of you may stay behind and another part of you may reincarnate. There are other beliefs where reincarnations all happen at the same time from another perspective. So you're not going from one life to another so much as they're all incarnating at once. It just seems that way from our perspective within the cycle.
Right.
Tagging along to what he says, the same theory about deja vu. Seeing something, is that the ripple in time?
Right.
Is that something that's already happened? Has this already happened? So on and so forth.
It's kind of like the wormhole theory.
Exactly.
Flat space, and then they're actually connected like that. If I had to surface drawing.
Exactly. Remember, this is all theory.
Right.
You never know until we're gone.
Oh yeah.
And even then, we don't even really know. But
I like to put theories together though, because I hear the stories. So one medium said, I know I died in Gettysburg. I can even tell you the name. I have dreams of this man. I know I'll say like John Smith, I can't remember the name. She actually went to Gettysburg and found the guy's name, and she knew where she died, what field. She knew all that, and it all happened. She actually researched it and found all the facts. So it's pretty interesting. Everything, all her dreams, it actually was true. So I had another person come to me and said, my brother died in a real traumatic event. Let's say I don't want to put anything out there. But when he died, I found out I was pregnant with my son. When my son was about 2, he started saying, my name is, I'll say John. That was her brother. He says, he pointed at the calendar, he goes, that's my birthday right there, which is her brother's birthday.
Oh, wow.
His eyes were blue, like her brother's. His personality was like her brother's. He was doing things that her brother had done. It was like impersonating him. So was that something he picked up? And he was only 2 years old, so it was pretty interesting. Did the brother reincarnate to her son?
Yeah.
It made you wonder.
Yeah,
it's all theories, but
yeah.
So who would say my name's John and demand that his name? She wanted him to call her brother's name.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
There are a lot of cases and a lot of studies that have been done on very young children who remember past lives. Spontaneously, not through hypnosis or anything else. They'll have details, they'll know stuff that a 2-year-old shouldn't be able to know or understand.
Right, that's what that one was. He shouldn't knew some of the things that her brother knew, or her brother did. Right. He was saying stuff. He even pointed at the calendar and said that's my birthday.
And as they get older,
the family stick together.
Yeah,
Model.
reincarnate, and I've heard Lorna say that it comes back to the
Just
family.
kind of carryover from the past life because they're so young, they don't have all that background noise going on. They're able to kind of tap into that.
So
as they get older, they
cell
forget.
memory carries over. Yeah.
I like to think that being of the Catholic religion, in my belief system, when you die, you go to heaven, you go to hell, or you go to purgatory. And I went to Catholic school when I was younger, so I learned way too much about this stuff. But no one ever really explained what is purgatory. What is it? What does it look like? What do you do? They talk about how great heaven is, and they talk about how terrible hell is, but they really don't tell you what purgatory is. They just say, well, it's a place you go if, you're not supposed to go to hell, but you're not quite ready for heaven. So what if reincarnation is purgatory? You are living your life again, and you have to get it right before you can go to heaven.
Didn't the Catholic Church actually remove that from their teachings, though? I don't think they even teach about purgatory.
Purgatory is still there.
I thought they removed it.
Oh, yes.
I remember learning about it, 'cause I went to...
We pray for the souls in purgatory, all this.
Yeah. No, but yeah,
That's a good
the
point.
big thing about the Catholic Church is the whole movement of 1962, the Vatican II, you know, and that's a whole mess in itself altogether.
I think it's pretty cool that the Catholic Church is starting to recognize exorcisms more, though.
Absolutely.
I think that's fantastic.
Pope Francis has actually
Thank God.
acknowledged a team from the Vatican that in every archdiocese there will be somebody who is taught as an exorcist. It's actually proven that possession, demonic possession, claims of demonic possession are actually on a rise. Why that is, I don't know. But Father Malachi Martin, back in 1995, predicted this prior to his death, that yes, there is a rise of, you know, demonic possession, and you will see it as going further into, you know, the new millennium, so on and so forth. Why, we don't know. They say it's, you know, in the prophecies of Fatima. You know, there's three prophecies of Fatima, and he was one of the ones who actually saw the prophecies, but he was sworn to secrecy about it, so nobody really knows what's probably. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely. I see it definitely on the rise.
You think it's something like the realms thinning, like we're getting more spiritual? And
I definitely see.
Yeah, and there's more turmoil.
Because of the turmoil in the world and everything, I definitely see that veil getting a lot thinner.
That's what I was saying.
There's a lot more evil in the world now
Yes.
than there used to be. I mean, just in general, not in a demonic way, but people are more open to evil.
Here's another theory though, is it the fact that there's more evil in the world, or the fact that social media and the news is reporting it more, and we're becoming more conscious of it.
That's possible.
And we're actually numbing ourselves to it.
That's true. Actually, we see it all over.
Let me offer an alternate opinion. Part of the reason that you have more accounts of possession and paranormal activity, a lot of it has to do with the exposure of the media. I mean, we're having TV shows now that everyone can watch, and they're fantastical, and people are getting touched by spirits. And so it puts it out there, and more than that, it puts it in people's minds. So it goes back to the power of belief. It opens them up. So it may not necessarily be that there are more instances in number, but it's becoming more accessible to talk about those experiences, to see them on TV, and to get them reported.
It's more acceptable too.
I mean, look at the 1950s, 30s, 40s, 50s. The word hell itself was as bad as the F word, the F-bomb. Now it's socially acceptable to have, you know, drawings of Satan or the devil in cartoons. You know, in music, in a lot of that, in murders. You know, they're talking about murdering in music and stuff like that, which was unheard of, you know, come 80 years ago. So yes.
That's also because culture always has to push the envelope.
Exactly.
That's true too.
And I mean, there was a theory, Pope Leo XIII, he had a vision. He was giving a sermon one day, and it said that he looked like he had a seizure, but what actually happened was he had an out-of-body experience, a lucid experience, and he said he heard outside of the church a voice of Jesus Christ negotiating with Satan, and it said, Christ said, I have faith in all my children, I have faith in my church. And Satan said, your church is falling and I can prove it to you. He says, how can you prove it to me? He says, if you give me 100 years, I can prove to you that I can have your church collapse. And that was one of the prophecies that was made by Pope Leo, and you can actually look it up. And it's funny how ever since that's happened, you can see how everything is becoming more socially acceptable in social media, and there's a lot, you know, things back in, you know, 1800s, 1700s that would be, you know, demonic influence or spiritual influence or stuff like that is now being chalked off a lot to medical conditions or, you know, environmental conditions or so on and so forth.
So how long ago was it that Pope Leo had this
I
experience?
believe it was 1890. I somewhere in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I forgot the exact date. I was actually just reading it on the way here. But like we can see it, especially in the turn of the century, the wars of Iraq, the wars of Afghanistan. We're so accustomed now to, oh, well, when's the next massacre going to happen?
Right.
You know.
I wonder too if there's like something to do with something that you were talking about earlier, that people just kind of lost the sense of their self. Like they don't know how to heal their own bodies, or they're not really connected to anything. You know, they're kind of just always out here and not very present and mindful, and just being very distracted by you know, all these blinking, flashing lights that we got going on around us at all times. So they kind of allow themselves to be open to that maybe more.
And distracted away with reality TV shows and things like that. Sports are used to create such a level of importance on a sporting event that people don't notice the stuff going around you know, every day. And this, you know, without getting into conspiracy theory, it is something that...
I don't mind.
Powers that be, the people who want to manipulate the overall picture, that's useful to them.
Yeah.
Whether they created it or it just happened, it's useful for the people running things that the general populace doesn't really pay attention to.
It's media control. It's just like Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hollywood is there to distract the people from the problems of the real world. When Justin Bieber got a DUI, we bombed a wedding in Libya. When the guy from Duck Dynasty made some kind of slur or something, we did something else terrible.
Right.
But what was trending on the news was Hollywood, because that's what we're trained to care about. That's what we're trained to want to see, and we miss all these real issues that are going on in the world.
And there's nothing wrong with the entertainment field. I mean, art is an important part of our culture. It's just when the personal lives of people that are involved in the art, the actors, and all that drama takes front stage to everything in people's lives, they lose touch of what's really going on around them and who they are.
It's very important to be educated on world matters. And with the way mainstream media is, they make it difficult for you to be educated. You actually have to look and research to educate yourself. You can't just turn on the news today and find out what's really going on in the world. You just can't do it anymore. You have to look for it.
And there's also a group called, I think it was factcheck.org, that checked all the news organizations and found that not only do all of them lie and have inaccurate information,
No,
but
really?
the one that was the most honest was CNN, which is also the least watched.
Yeah.
The least honest was Fox, the most watched.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they use it to tell people what they want to hear.
Entertaining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have
It's a shame.
you have
It
a
really
drug
is.
addict. You know, you have a drug addict who has an overdose, but the fact that she's, you know, a celebrity, she gets the flags at half staff.
Yeah.
You know, when you get soldiers who die every single day in the freedom's cause, in conflicts and combat that nobody knows about, it's expected of us.
A very interesting question. Since I'm not from around here, there was something very, very huge that just happened locally in our area. And it happened right around the time our family lost someone very close to us. Did anybody hear about Eric Frame?
Nope.
Nobody?
Nobody
In our area.
Where are you from?
I'm from like the Poconos, Pennsylvania area. Because it was on CNN and everything.
He was the guy that
See, everybody knows who he is. The guy that he shot a state trooper.
Oh yeah.
And then he lived for like 43 days in the woods. I mean, the state police actually went as far as to think they were going to fly a helium balloon, and they were going to find him with this helium balloon. I mean, it was getting ridiculous. They could not find this guy anywhere. And what amazes me is he killed a state trooper, and it was this huge media thing. They had his phone records, his internet records, every piece of information they wanted within 48 hours. Now, a little earlier than that, we lost a very, very close friend of ours, and she was murdered. She was, what, in her early 50s? 51. Yeah, she was 51, and it happened in March, right? April. They still have not got her text message records back. No. And her killer is living 3 blocks away from me.
Wow.
You know who he is?
It's her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, we all know.
I actually ran into him in a Sheets one time. It wasn't pretty. It was not pretty.
They don't have the proof to go get them, or, is that, or they just...
They're just dragging their feet on the records, and that's why I'm talking about things that are, it goes back to the media. When they dramatize something so much, it's amazing. In 48 hours, they had everything they needed to prove this guy was guilty. And in almost a year, they still can't find this woman's killer. Now, she worked for the post office for years and years and years. She was an upstanding citizen. I mean, granted, she wasn't a cop, but everybody knew her. Her funeral line was huge. There were like 300 mail trucks in her funeral procession. It was the most amazing thing I ever saw in my life. But it's almost a year, and they still don't have the records they need to even question this guy enough to possibly hold him and try him. But because it's this other guy was so dramatized in the media, it changes everything.
It does.
It's just such a shame.
No, it's the truth. It's all about the almighty dollar. Exactly, and it goes back to it goes right back to spiritualism. The fact that, I mean, Father Malachi Martin said it himself, the world itself is coming so far away from spiritualism, and every day you see churches getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and, less people and less people in churches. Yes?
It seems to me like the idea of getting away from spiritualism has as much to do with the church subverting the idea of what spiritualism is than us actually, being less spiritual as individuals.
Well, there's also a difference between being spiritual and being religious. You have religious people who have no spirituality whatsoever, and non-religious people who are very spiritual.
Yes. Now, here's another thing, too. With the creation of mainstream media and the internet and all this stuff, at the end of the day, you can find out about religion in your living room. Whereas before, you couldn't. You had to go to the church. You had to listen to the pastor, the priest, the bishop. Where now you don't need to. Now you can sit there and say, oh, well, let me look up conspiracy theories about Noah's Ark. Boom. Well, Noah's Ark was really the Titanic. Who knows? And somebody will believe it. You can polish up a turd, but it's still a piece of shit.
That is one of the problems with so much information with the web. I mean, the web is an amazing resource, but there's so much nonsense out there.
Exactly.
Anyone can put on anything they want, and most people don't fact check what they read.
Google's not an oracle.
Exactly.
I can say, just from writing my book on conspiracy theories, it was a very difficult journey because there was so much research to do, and then I had to research the research.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
You end up going down a rabbit hole.
Right.
Exactly. That never ends.
And then that's the way it is, and it comes to the point where you have to pull the science out of everything and try to form an opinion based on actual facts and science and not all this other crap that I spent hours wasting my time on.
And try not to make the assumptional jumps that so many conspiracy theories make.
Exactly. I mean, I'm a Freemason. I'm proud of it. I wear a ring, and I was just called the other day by somebody who's supposedly, a religious person. I was called a devil worshiper, and I'm like, wow, there's still these conspiracy theories out there that are just...
Freemasons are constantly targets for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you're a Freemason, you're part of the Illuminati.
Exactly.
And you're part of the problem.
Exactly, because, you know why? Because the information is not readily available to people because they go by what the World Wide Web and the internet says Illuminati wants to take over the world and so on and so forth.
I believe in the Illuminati, but I don't believe they're connected to the Masons.
And where do the Knights Templars fall in?
Well, the Freemasons are potentially derived from the Knights Templar.
Okay, because it was actually the Knights Templars that actually had the major decisions in the forming of our country.
Right.
Because my friend actually found some books from way back when with their meetings that was actually documented, and she took photos of each page. And they talked about the U.S. borders and how far they were expanding the borders.
The Templars basically hid themselves, and one of the groups they came out through is the Freemasons. There's a lot of knowledge hidden in the Freemason work in the initiations and the sacred geometry and everything else. There's so much information hidden there, and it was hidden so that it would never be lost. The problem is when people hear hidden, they think, oh, it must be bad.
That's exactly what I was thinking while you were saying
You know,
that.
the word occult, which has all these horrible, associations with it, just means hidden knowledge.
Exactly. I'm going to throw a curveball in your whole mix too, is I'm also an ordained Knights Templar. And in order to be an ordained Knights Templar, you have to be a Freemason first. Now, this is something that you can be able to readily find in the history books. On Friday, February 13th, King Philip went ahead and put out the order that he wanted all Knights Templars murdered in France. Well, that spread throughout not only France, but all the way the road to Jerusalem because of the fact that the Knights Templar came up with what we know now as the modern day banking system. All right, so King Philip wanted to have all the money. So with that, the Knights Templar, the few that were left that did have the treasures that were held, some say, they had the Holy Grail, some say they had the Ark of the Covenant, so on and so forth. They fled to a place in Scotland known as Rosslyn Chapel, which were monks there. And Rosslyn Chapel was built by monks who were then were under operative stonemasonry. When Freemasons got together, when the Knights Templar arrived, it was pretty much a thing of, okay, well, you teach us to fight and protect ourselves, and we will teach you our secrets. And hence, if anybody has a place to visit Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland. It's amazing.
It is an amazing place.
Yeah.
And if you look deep into the sacred geometry of stuff and the ancient cathedrals that were built and all these ancient structures, they're built with certain aspects that are really fascinating and reflect certain sacred numbers that correspond to the Earth and the solar system and everything else. And it's one of those things where you look at it at first, you go, that's just a coincidence, until you start seeing it repeat over and over in all these structures and everything else, and it's really fascinating.
And now you're talking about the Knights Templar, who was an organization that are warriors, devoted to keeping the secret in the life of Christ and the Holy Grail, and they're celibate. And
what I find interesting is a lot of people, even that I come across, don't know what the Holy Grail is. You hear the term, but so many people don't know what it really is.
We don't really know what it is.
A lot of people assume it's just a cup.
Others say it's the bloodline of Jesus.
Exactly. The womb, so on and so forth.
Right.
I mean, there's so many passages.
I mean, a lot of people don't even know theories behind it. You know what I mean? Like, I mentioned Holy Grail, and they're like, "You talking about Monty Python?" I'm like, "No."
It's not just the womb, though. There are also theories that he had children.
Yes.
Yeah.
One in particular named Seriah that had to flee from Jerusalem into Europe, and so on and so forth. But
there's someone I had interviewed on my show named Edmund Marriage, and I think it was his uncle, had taken the ancient Sumerian records and all these ancient records and decoded them in in the oldest forms he could find, and they put together a theory that of who Jesus actually was, that he had gone to England, I think it was, and lived there as a king for a long period of time until his death.
I have heard the theory of there actually wasn't crucifixion. I don't believe it, but there is a theory there. That's just me personally. I don't have to.
Right.
It's everybody's own belief.
You're right. There's when you get biblical, there is a theory on everything in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible is probably the most contradictory book that will ever exist.
Well, because you have the Old Testament that states wrath and I'm going to punish you, and
right,
you know what?
It was also rich white men who wrote it.
Yeah, and then you have the New Testament that says love, peace, and chicken.
Right. And the people who don't follow the Bible don't understand it. They're like, you believe in someone who killed people and had them sacrifice animals? I'm like, you need to actually study it. You can't just take a few things you heard and think you know the Bible and the religions that read the Bible. There's so much more to it.
There's also the fact that the oldest known versions of the Bible are almost completely different from what we have today. Because the church has changed it so much, has deleted books, has completely altered the whole meaning of sections. Not only that, but translations always change the meaning. No matter how carefully you translate something, nothing translates 100%. And when you've translated something through 4 different languages, you have sometimes a completely different meaning behind it.
Absolutely.
And
also, how many books are not in the Bible that are...
Right, like the Book of Enoch, which they found 3 copies of and such. Also, the New Testament, the teachings of the New Testament, there are a lot of similarities to Buddhism.
So,
I mean, even as a student of Catholic school, you know, we were told the Bible, God didn't write the Bible, Jesus didn't write the New Testament, the Bible was written by man. So it's not word for word, it's, you know, it's open to interpretation. I mean, there's basic principles in there that are kind of, you know, you can kind of read it and grasp it, and everybody can understand what it means, but it all has to be taken with a grain of salt because it was written by man.
real talk.
And then there's ghosts. All right, and then we got ghosts, okay.
I have a question.
Yep.
Kind of going back to the ghosts and stuff. I'm really curious of your experience with animals in the house. Just because we've lived in a couple of places where we kind of realized afterwards that maybe it was haunted by something, but it really came out in the expression of our animals. Like we lived in a upstairs apartment in King Fair, cat kept jumping out of the 2nd story window and just not coming home for like weeks at a time.
Animals are definitely more receptive to spiritual.
They're like small children, they don't have the filters that we have to block the stuff out.
Us as grown-ups, we've developed over time that there isn't a boogeyman.
We have our blinders.
Exactly. There isn't a boogeyman. There's no such thing as Santa Claus. There's no such thing as a tooth fairy. We've created those things because, like she said, your parents are like, if you don't go to bed, I'm going to kick your ass. You know?
I remember those days.
Yeah. But it really makes you think, is your kid really seeing something? Because I'm telling you now, dogs, cats, for as domesticated as they are, they still have their instincts. You know? How many times you can sit at home and the dog gets up and starts barking at something and you're like, what's there? I don't see nothing. I don't hear nothing.
Well, through the course of like the year that we lived in this cabin, that it just really had bad energy, and but our dog like started to get kind of really protective of me especially, and like aggressive, which he hadn't been before. And we were trying to figure out what was going on with him, but now looking back, because we moved since then, and his, yeah, we had a lot of experience.
You gotta realize too, if it was a cabin, especially out in the, is it around here?
Old land.
Well, it's old land in Ludlowville, but it's also by moving water, and that was my next question.
Ludlowville, okay, but the whole thing is Ludlowville, there was a lot of stuff that went on in Ludlowville back years ago.
Yeah, we're kind of like across from where they harvested ice, the ice pond, we kind of lived right across.
But there, I mean, back years ago, there was a lot of stuff that went on in Ludlowville. You know, that's just like, you talk Wells College, okay? I mean, because you had a lot of people don't realize there was like some major bloody battles fought there, you know? And the same thing, I think, up there by Ludlowville was what's going on up there.
Separate experiences that we kind of thought, you know, oh, we're just kind of being crazy or weird or something, and then later on I was like, yeah, I hear music at night sometimes.
That goes back to the residual energy. Something could happen there, and the animal will pick that up, and they'll feel that. It could have been like a bad energy.
The house
I think there was
built in
something
the 70s, so I think it
it could be, yeah. Well, they can take on that form, like if something's anger. Like I thought, because I can feel something walk in the house. And people say, I won't tell you. And I walked this one room, I said, oh man, I feel like angry in here. I picked up the feelings. They're like, yeah, this is where he did all his witchcraft, and he was into rituals. And the animals wouldn't even go in there, so the animals knew to stay away from him.
Yeah, we had friends that used to live in this house before we moved into it, and they were in like a 2-year relationship. Completely went to hell after they moved into this house. Completely disintegrated, and then they, after they left, like they're separated now, but they're just completely different people, especially the girlfriend.
I've seen that a lot, where they're like, we moved in this house, and our relationship went to crap. Like she moved out of town, I don't know where she's at. Like they were perfect the house before that. So is it that energy in that house?
Because we had a hard time when we were living there too.
Yeah, so you almost pick up that energy. Is it something making you guys fight, or are you feeling that anger?
You also gotta look at it too. I mean, a lot of Native American lore, a lot of elementals, a lot of, interdimensionals, a lot of ancient spirits sometimes, they don't, it might not be the fact that they're evil per se, or maybe, or even malevolent. A lot of times they're just ancient in their ways. And sometimes they just don't want people building on their land.
And a lot of times when we go on things, I find that it's family members, that there's something going on in the house that nobody's sharing, that everything's a big secret, and it's family members that are hanging out that cause the disruption.
You mean living or dead family?
Dead family members.
Come on, we're not talking about living people here.
And also, when you say it's the land, there are certain areas and certain rock formations that seem to generate more activity than others.
Well, yeah, because you have ley lines are really, really bad.
Ley lines are
Brandon
bad
is
too.
one of them. Also, fault lines.
Yeah, fault lines too.
Paul Devereaux, ages ago, did a study of UFO reports in England and found so many of them line up with fault lines.
Plates connected.
What hit me immediately, not knowing the history of this area at all, was the running water.
Yeah, because
that's a conductor of
we were
energy.
really drained when we were living there, like so tired, and it was just kind of like,
Falls
what
is
is going
totally
on?
amazing.
It's beautiful, yeah, and like our porch just, kind of overlooks the water, and a friend of ours was telling us the water really can pull a lot of.
And water is a great conductor. Yeah, it's like heavily traveled with spirit activity.
But being drained is a good one, because I hear that a lot. Some people they got black brains, they can't sleep, and they're just drained. We see that a lot, and I think that spirits use their energy, and these people are drained. They're like totally they're like walking zombies, some of them.
Yeah, they can be really restless. Wake up in the middle of the night, wake up to like gunshots.
Yeah.
And no one else to hear, all the dogs would still be asleep, and it was just plain as day, like someone shot a gun out in front of my house, and I'd bolt up out of bed, I'd wake up and feel like some sort of weird presence in the room, or like
being
a weird energy in my head, like it was kind of strange sometimes. I'd feel like this fuzzy like vibration.
And we
Wake
both
up.
on separate occasions, not at the same time, heard music clearly playing, like to the point where you're getting up and walking around, like, did somebody leave a cell phone, like, on the couch or something? Like,
I'm gonna go ahead and because it's like really, really strange. And this is actually a hypnosis that I did. Nate, on that first disc, okay, that I gave you, the intro disc that we were playing, there's a clip on there, and it's a woman laying in a hospital bed. Keep in mind, I did not bring any music with me, and I actually apologized to her because I didn't bring my music because I was worried about having to go through the hospital thing because I didn't know if there was oxygen in the room or not. Generally, they have to check anything electronic that you bring in. So I was like, I didn't bring my music with, but you guys got to see this because I didn't bring any music at all. But watch this because it's like really, really cool.
The history is real important too while doing the, I also get a timeline when I investigate. I ask people, were there deaths in that time when the activity started. Timeline is real important, and so is the history. My sister's house lives in my grandmother's house now. There was appliances going off, the radio would play, she'd unplug the radio and it'd still be playing, and things like that. And come to find out, there was a Native American camp right behind her house. And 2 different mediums said there's a little Native American girl in the house that plays with the electronics.
My friends that lived there before actually went to somebody, a shaman or something, and she told, like, this is right before they moved out, that there was actually 3 spirits in the house. 2 of them are benign, the third one is a malevolent spirit, and that they should move out right away.
Yeah,
we didn't know this until I had talked to her, like, after we'd been living there for 8 or 9 months and had been having these experiences. And I was like, did you hear music playing when you were here? And she's like, oh yeah, all the time. And then she told us what, that they were told, so.
It was interesting too, like I was kind of in this space where I was not asleep yet. I was kind of like right before you fall asleep, and this image popped into my mind out of nowhere of like a long time ago, kind of like a soldier dressed in an old uniform, with a child and a woman, and he had a gunshot wound, and I told him, and then that's when he told me that he hears gunshot wounds, or gunshots.
you're more susceptible in that in-between state as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Your brain's relaxed, you're more open.
Right.
I hear dreams all the time, and people have nightmares too if it's bad.
Yeah.
We actually went in this house, we all had the same nightmare dream.
Well-
They were being attacked by this like dark, massive entity. I mean, it was bad. I was screaming in my sleep. I woke up in a squat. My wife said, "What? You were screaming, get the hell away from me." And my brother had the same dream, and another psychic medium had the same dream that I was with her, and we were fighting off this beast. This house we went to was like really bad. People were getting scratched.
Wow.
So it was connected to the house we were.
Yeah, we just moved back in November, and I don't experience any of this now. Sleep really well, don't have that feeling. My dogs are completely relaxed. You know, it's just totally different energy.
Feeling
Your
being
brain
watched
activity-
is another one.
Yeah,
Your brain activity skyrockets when you dream too,
Yeah.
as opposed to being
But-
conscious right there.
The whole thing with the hearing the music though, this was like really, really strange because when you guys were talking about that, this kind of reminded me of it, so.
And I didn't bring any music with, so you're just gonna kind of like focus on my voice. I want you to see yourself standing out on the balcony, and down below, there's a beautiful, beautiful garden full of flowers. It's springtime. You can hear the wind just kind of rustle through the leaves. The birds are singing. It's just so beautiful. Such a beautiful place. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna walk on down to that garden.
So someone on the other side thought you needed music.
Smell the fresh air, just rejuvenating your body. And you find a place, there's a little bench, and you find a place to sit. And just absorb all the beauty, all that pure energy that's surrounding you. To be able to smell those flowers. And just enjoy. As you're sitting there. That garden smelled good, and I gotta ask, what was those lilacs? There were, I kept smelling lilacs. Yeah. Where I grew up in Westfield, my mother had dug up lilacs from the family home, and she brought them over to the house they built in Westfield. And, you know, we lost them now because we didn't bring them to the new house, but I have 2 lilacs at the end of my deck because I needed lilacs. I smelled lilacs when I took her to the garden. Yeah. I could smell, could you smell them? Yes. I smelled lilacs. I was like, oh my gosh.
And the whole thing,
Yeah.
so with her mom, actually bringing that scent of the lilacs, that tells me that her mom also brought the music.
We do get scents. We get tobacco smell, weird like fire, smoke. You can smell it like it's right under your nose.
So do you find that anytime that you have to, you know, that somebody may call you to a place or you go there and there's like this, more of the chaotic energy that person, you know, went through something tragic? Is it always about tragedy or?
It's not always about tragedy. It could be like a hidden stress. It could be, like I said, hidden stress. It could be you watched a bad show.
You do feel anxiety though when you go in
Yeah.
a house. Like I'll feel anxiety, this uneasiness. Because I usually feel stuff. I'll feel it in different rooms. Like this might be calm, and then all of a sudden this room's like totally
The
anxiety.
potential of the knife.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting because every case is 100% different.
Yeah.
Every case is different. Like, you could do a case tonight, and when you walk into a case tomorrow, you have to completely open your mind again because it's going to be 100% different.
Yeah.
No case is the same.
No.
You see certain things happen with
You can pick up on certain patterns and you can draw it towards.
And that's what helped us form our theories.
Exactly, malevolency or residual or demonic or, you know, just intelligent haunting. You know, it'll take certain shapes, but nothing will ever be 100% like the other one was, ever.
Like when you say intelligent, I'll ask questions pertaining to I'll get information from the owner And I'll ask, is like, is Sarah here? Is there a little girl here? And if we get a little girl answering us, that's usually like intelligent. It's not necessarily a little girl, but somebody's answering us. And we've had yes, no.
Well, and the
So,
one
it's
place that we
communicating.
actually did was when you actually heard the voice without the recording.
Yeah, we've done that too.
And somebody called Peter by his name, and he was out in the other room.
I was like, I just heard my name. It was so clear.
You know, so it's sometimes, and it was really strange because the most activity that was in that house was in the room where they said that there was no activity.
Yeah.
Oh no, my niece sleeps here. This room is fine. The room was actually a doorway. I have photos of people coming through the window.
And it's
people
interesting
from the
you
other
say
side
that.
coming through the window.
We see a lot of that. It seems like people will have activity going on all over and they'll have their one safe zone. But when people like us come in and the spirits realize, you know, we're not those people, we're different, we're here and we believe in them and we're trying to communicate with them and they may not like it, they tend to hide in the one place they're telling us we're not going to find them.
That is true. We almost felt we're chasing them with our meters. Like we'll get a flash of the EV or a EMF meter. Like where that energy just came through, and it's like we're chasing them.
Yep.
Well,
It'll be there, and then you turn around, you're like,
actually-
it's right behind you.
Yep.
Peter has actually taken the equipment and followed me
Yeah.
and watched the energy leaving
When you're-
by registering it with the equipment when I'm doing like a house cleansing or whatever.
I can see it going through the EMF meter, and it's crazy. The EMFs were like 20, 30, and then when she's done, back to 0. So I was actually monitoring her cleansing in the house. And she was, what's saying now? I'm like, when she's done, it says 0. So there's like no energy. So she cleaned all that bad energy out, but I could see it when she was.
He actually followed me with equipment to make sure.
It was crazy.
Yeah, the whole scientific aspect. And actually, Luke has been on some stuff with us. And, yeah, let me remind you, too, Luke is an anthropology student. The first thing he said to me when he started shadowing us is, I'm an anthropology student, and we don't believe in ghosts. Dead is dead. Well,
I'm just
pretty much so.
Objective. I don't necessarily believe in spirits, or I just have a different kind of rhetoric than you would commonly hear among paranormal investigators, and that's because I'm trying to break through that kind of, we have like a lack of language to try and understand this unknown aspect. And for example, so when people take family photos and in the background they see the image of their dead uncle or grandfather or father, they might be more inclined to believe that, you know, the actual spirit of their family member is there. What I've come to try and, or what I've come to believe is that there might be an alternate, you know, kind of explanation where in that moment before the picture, the family members were either thinking about that person or talking about that person, so they're putting out this kind of mental, psychological, and emotional energy that causes that imprint to appear.
Kind of like the cross station.
Right.
Yeah, they manifested the.
So I go out and I try to take a step back and not kind of follow through this, there's a ghost in the house or there's a demon or...
I believe that 100%, I agree too.
There's many explanations, and it's better, at least for my field, to take a step back and look at it from the outside as well.
And I totally love that because of the fact that that actually still states to us, there is more to us than what we realize.
Mind is powerful.
The mind is a powerful, powerful playground.
And fear can feed it too. I've seen people so scared, they piped up, I think they manifested most of the activity in their house. Because, you know, I'm Roman Catholic, we don't believe in this, and we're seeing dark shadows and stuff's lifting off the shelves. And
they've actually manifested the demon themselves.
yeah, and they actually
They've created
manifested
it.
that. Yeah.
With any of this stuff, people have experiences. They're real experiences. So it's just a matter of figuring out what those experiences truly consist of, and there may be numerous explanations to it. You know, they may not all be one thing, and it may be something that we can't actually understand. It may be saying that our experience simply doesn't have a face for, so this is the face we put on it. There are cases of weird monster accounts, where reliable people have reported flesh and blood looking monsters that are just ridiculous. And they feel ridiculous reporting them because they're so ridiculous, but they saw them. And it could very well be that what they actually saw was some kind of energy that their brain had no way of coping with. So it just put a monster there because it's the only thing the brain can do to let them deal with it.
Kind of goes along the theory, like if you look at something like that's, you know, got repeating patterns or abstract, like the first thing you see is a face. A lot of times, because that's just what our minds are trained to do, is to recognize a face. You know, so it's
a lot of abused children. A lot of abused children will, if they're getting abused by, let's say, a neighbor or a family member, actually, in order for them to cope with it in their brain, will psychologically go ahead and transform that person's face into either a monster or a bunny rabbit or a teddy bear, something where they can comprehend.
Transference.
Exactly, the transference. Or so that, and these children ask, well, who's hit you or who's touched you? The monster has. When actually it's not a monster, it's the neighbor Jim.
I actually I had stories, I worked with troubled girls for 13 years. So I worked in mental health for 3 years. A lot of those kids would tell me stories, even in their dreams. They had these protective figures. Because one was a robe figure, and he would protect her. When he came, she felt safe. So were they conjuring that up, or, you know? And they would come tell me all these stories. It was crazy. You know, were the meds, were the side effects? I don't know, but I heard a lot of stories. So it was crazy.
It ends up being important is that whether or not it's real is not really important. It's more, it's real because it's real to the person.
It's real to them.
Perception,
Right.
reality.
Because it wouldn't help them if, you know, anyone were to come and oh, well, you're just crazy. Because that stuff would probably still happen. And unless they have some kind of either psychological shock or, you know, there's a cleansing of energy, the problem will probably.
It's the same theory with poltergeists that they're having now, where poltergeist is actually, it's starting to show a pattern of it being manifested by children that are coming of age. You know, they're coming of the age of growing into adulthood through puberty and stuff like that, because their brains are manifesting things in different ways, and your brains and your neural electrons are firing off on all different kinds of pistons because of the fact of the transformation in your body, in your psyche, that they're manifesting these events happening around them and they don't even know it. Okay, they, you know, they're causing these, you know, the refrigerator to move. They're causing holes in the wall. They're causing all this stuff. And yes, the family is in complete panic, and then they get even more scared. And then it just continually gets worse and worse and worse.
We've seen that in the house. There was 2 young girls, and they were, you know, 13. One was 17, I think. It was crazy. Poltergeist. Candles were flying through the air. Spoons were flying in the sink. And they were freaked out. I said, well, and you have to explain to them.
They're creating it.
And they thought it was something like a demon or something in their house. I'm like, I think it's coming within you guys.
You have to look at the emotional state of someone like that.
Exactly.
I mean, me being a girl, some years ago I was a teenager, and I know what my emotional state was like. It was up and down and crazy, and I was sad, then I was angry. I wanted to slam doors. I did slam doors. I did a lot, you know, and that's how I took my anger out. So when they manifest this energy, they're taking out their anger in the form of this energy instead of doing it themselves. I mean, I got so mad I kicked the door and I sprained my foot. But, you know, if I didn't do that, I would have continued to build it up, and I could have eventually manifested that energy. Instead, I broke my foot. It happened.
And you gotta look at it now, what does every teenager have? Cell phones, electronics, all around the house. What are conductors? You know what I mean? These are creating magnetic fields that, and it's been proven that magnetic fields can be manipulated. You know what I mean? And teenagers can go ahead and, without knowing it, create a boogeyman, create, you know, so on and so forth.
I've seen it with phone calls too. People are actually getting phone messages, crazy, like phone messages on their phone, and they were freaked out. It doesn't even sound human. And they're like, and they're recording them, they're playing them back to me. crazy.
Lorna and I
I've
had
seen that.
that happened this morning.
Did you?
I'm in the
Yeah.
hotel. They put the phone on speaker when they're in the hotel with me. I'm like, what is my phone doing? And apparently she heard the same thing, and then the call just disconnected.
We were like totally interrupted from.
It went on for like almost a minute, and I'm just like sitting there holding the phone.
When you were talking about trauma too,
Yeah.
years ago, Dr. Kenneth Ring had done a study on people who had near-death experiences and people who were UFO abductees. And he didn't study the phenomena itself, but the after effects. And one of the things he found that they had in common was that many of them had trauma as children. And that trauma seems to, and it goes over into other fields of the paranormal and other experiences, and it seems that trauma somehow opens people up. Maybe because they're looking for an escape or something else, but they're able to access that stuff or have those experiences easier than people who haven't had trauma in their past.
Absolutely. Near-death experiences, a lot of people that I investigated for, I'll ask them, anything happened to you? Well, I died on the operating table.
And people who had near-death
I crossed over, and they all tell me I was like beautiful on the other side. They knew they had to go back to their kids. They even heard the voice say, it's not your time, you gotta go back. She actually bled out, she was giving birth to the baby. Her husband was abusive, so it's kind of funny that you say that. And she says, I knew I had to go back and watch my children because I knew the husband would probably beat them too. And she actually got divorced after that. But anyway, she knew she had to go back, and she was really sensitive. She went out in some of our cases. She felt and seen things. So.
And that was something else Kenneth Ring found, is that people who had those experiences, near-death, abductions, whatever they may actually be, had sensitivity, had psychic experiences, would screw up electronics, and pretty much across the board. That was one of the common factors we found in almost all these people.
She's actually a nurse. She could tell when somebody was going to pass. That lady won't be here tomorrow. My sister's like, she was almost always right.
Another
After
thing,
she passed.
I had a soldier of mine where I went overseas, and he was actually really scared because his wife had a near-death experience. But at this time, when she came back, something came back with her that wasn't good.
Right.
That's another aspect too, another theory of, you know, sometimes you cross over, and sometimes you bump into things that are not very friendly. And the thing is, like, a lot of times, and even Lorna, I'm sure, could be able to confirm, as soon as they're able to get the notion that you can see them, it's on for them. You are somebody, oh, you can see me? I always wanted to play a joke on somebody where, like, I was sat on a public bench and just sat there and waiting for somebody else to sit down and then have them say something to me and say, you can see me? Just to bug them out. You know?
I call them lighthouses. The spirits can see these.
Spiritual lighthouses.
So they're drawn to that lighthouse. And that's, a lot of cases, that's usually what happens. There's some sensitive in the house.
And because of the fact that she went over and came back, something that was not good that was around her, saw, and she said that she saw it when she was on the other side. And it came back and it kept manifesting around, and she had to have a minor exorcism done.
Okay, we're going to have to round this up. Is there any more questions from the audience?
Yes.
Okay.
When you do an exorcism, do you care where the spirit goes to, or does it leave and go to the neighbor's house, or is that a concern when you're doing it?
It's really, really not a concern when I'm doing it, as long as it's shielded off and away. Generally, it will go back to the realm. It generally will not stay.
A lot of people use
within the neighborhood.
The term "go where Jesus Christ tells you to go."
Right. Well, and like I said, because of belief, you know, I follow whoever I like to stay with whatever they believe, you know, because that's where the power is. So whatever their belief system is, so if it's God or, you know, whatever, that's, I mean, because actually, like with energies that are unruly and I can't figure out what they are, and they're like really causing havoc, they can actually be locked into a crystal. And
like a
kept there,
right,
they can be binded and actually locked into a crystal to where they can't cause any more destruction.
Like gin?
But I'm really, really careful with that because I actually had one spirit that I had bounded over to an abandoned piece of property, an abandoned house, because I knew nobody was going to move into that house, because I didn't want to lock it into anything. It wouldn't go anywhere. So the next best thing was to bind it from the property and put it in the house next door and then bind that house. And I had to laugh because we had done a paranormal investigation at the other house, and everybody was drawn to that house next door where I had kind of like bound that spirit there because I wanted to know, because you got to understand too, when our country was founded, it wasn't founded by nice people.
No.
It was founded by mean people. That's how they made it. That's how they made it through the wilderness and everything. They didn't make it through the wilderness by being nice. So it's like, you know, so you don't want to step over that bound. So you got to figure out what you're dealing with.
Exactly. Like the way Lorna says, it could be a demon, it could be a jinn, it could be a malevolent spirit. You know, you never know what you're dealing with.
And actually, when you talk demon and you talk jinn and things like this, it could be an ancient spirit. Look how old our planet is. So just because it growls at you, that may be the way that it communicates. You see what I'm saying?
I have recordings.
Just because it's aggressive, that may be the way that during the ancient spirit's time. And what happens is they kind of get pulled and they wander and they end up into our realm and they get trapped.
You don't like it.
And they can't get out and they will raise havoc. But they have been labeled as being demons, so on and so forth. So I mean, and those are basically what we deal with when we have a lot of havoc going on.
Scratching too, like scratches, they automatically, oh, it's a demon. Well, it might be a child scratching, trying to get your attention.
And it may not even be a scratch. We were talking about this the other night.
Yeah.
Because I believe, okay, spirits, the entities are energy, okay? If it touches you, it may feel like a scratch. It will leave red marks like a scratch, because I got touched one night on my hand and Peter actually filmed it, and you could actually stand there and watch my finger bubble up with blisters and blood spots.
Yeah. You actually could see it. That was crazy.
And they actually filmed it as it was blistering up. So it's like, you know, are they really scratching you? They may just be touching you.
Right.
But it's so intense that it actually feels like it would be a scratch.
Because just think of how much energy they have to pull together in order to touch
Right.
it. You know, and it could manifest as a burn. I was in Rolling Hills Asylum, and as a prank, I don't know what the hell it was, something went ahead and put a Masonic square and compass on my back.
I have pictures of that.
You know? And it's a mark. And it was in a child's room. And was it something malevolent? Who knows? And that's the thing, like the way Lorna says, a lot of these things are so ancient, they get pulled into our realm that sometimes you can't send them back to where they came from. That sometimes you do have to bind them in a crystal or, you know, a lamp. A lamp.
The lamp.
So, and
All
yeah,
right,
you talk
guys.
about gin are ancient.
All right.